whenever you guys are ready.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our panel. This is CivTechSA here representing. So this is a Startup Week event that CivTechSA is hosting on the civic entrepreneurship track. My name is Leslie Chasnoff. I'm the Geekdom programs manager, and CivTech is one of the amazing programs I get to manage, which is awesome. So if you're not familiar with CivTechSA, it's a partnership between the City of San Antonio, the Office of Innovation there, and Geekdom. And our goal is to create ways for entrepreneurs and students to work with the city to solve civic challenges. So we do that through a number of different programs within CivTech. We work directly with students on project-based learning. We have entrepreneurial events throughout the year, like Startup Weekends, our big datathon with Smart SA partners. And we have a residency program, which is a really special and cool program where specific civic challenges are introduced for companies to apply to solve. And if they get selected to solve those challenges based on their proposals, they go through a 16-week program where they embed directly into the city department. So they get to work directly with the city folks who are trying to solve this challenge. And they create a solution by the end of those 16 weeks that they share and they pitch. And we have a public demo day for that, which just happened. And from there, they might get to move forward on that project with the city and actually bring that application to life, or whatever the technological solution for the problem was. So today joining us is a team that just went through our residency program this summer. It's RedSquared, and they worked with another local technology company that also focused on solving civic challenges, Irys. And they're going to talk a lot today about their unique approach to this challenge, which was to create one app or one place for the residents of our city to get everything done that you can think of getting done, whether that's paying a bill, finding a park to go to, registering for to get a permit, things like this that we think about when we think about how we interact with our city. So today, our host for the panel, the moderator for the panel, is a special guest, Kate Kinnison, and she's with the Office of Innovation. She is the R&D administrator there, but she's done some really wonderful, cool projects in her role at the Office of Innovation. One was creating CivTech. So yay, thank you, Kate, for that. It's a wonderful program. If you've ever done an SA Speak Up survey from the city, she's also the mind behind that. And her latest kind of project is the R&D League, which is a really cool collaboration between researchers and entities in the city to also create new solutions and inform new solutions that are for problems that our city's facing. So Kate, with that, I'll let you take it away and get our panel going.
Awesome. I'm so excited to be here. As Leslie said, about 3-4 years ago, actually with Jax, who is the man behind San Antonio Startup Week, we started brainstorming with our teammates at the Office of Innovation and Geekdom. How could we bring entrepreneurial thinking into the city? And how could we bring the needs from the city into the entrepreneurial world, the startup ecosystem? And from there, CivTechSA was born. But you guys are the third cohort. When I was designing and managing this program the first year, I didn't know if it would live. I didn't know that we would have teams like you helping the city solve challenges during a residency for free. I mean, hopefully it's not for free because we buy your product, but it's amazing. When I watched y'all's demo day, I think it was last week, maybe the week before, I was so proud of this program and the caliber of talent that we're now bringing into the city to solve challenges and the way it's changing our mindset. So I'm truly happy to just spend this time with you today and learn more about you, about your product, and I hope the audience is as well. So on that note, I'll start with Irys, actually, since there's one of you on, and then we'll flip over to RedSquared. Tell us a little bit about Irys and yourself, and talk also about what attracted you to the CivTechSA program.
Of course. Well, thank you, everyone. Hi, everyone is connected to the webinar, to the call. So I'm Beto Gomez. I'm Chief Operating Officer and co-founder of Irys. And Irys is a technology company focused on building AI-driven tools that engage communities to bring real-time visibility and analytics for urban stakeholders. So we believe that infrastructure challenges and community resilience are important issues to be solved in the 21st century. So we have a strong focus on sustainability, and as we support design and engineering companies with their asset management and public engagement efforts during the development of infrastructure projects. So that's kind of an introduction of what we do, what our company does, the type of technology that we build. And what attracted us to the CivTech Challenge was, the opportunity to continue contributing to the technology and civic engagement of the communities in San Antonio. We previously built the 311 application. And so this was a great opportunity for us to work with a talented team as RedSquared. In the past, we've also collaborated on the 311 app, learning about the community and their insights and what they were really, going through. So, they had a very deep understanding, and, for us was a very, we had a lot of fun learning about the way they work and about learning also about the community and talking to different people, residents, and hearing from them what would actually make their life easier and the experience of interacting with government much, more fun. So that's kind of what brought us into this project, and we're enjoying it.
And Beto, I think you're being a little too modest, because this app that you've created, it is the portal to engaging with the city now. And it is very engaging, and it is very different than how things were done previous 5 years ago. So it's transformative. It really is. And actually, I think you should also highlight something I read in the news yesterday about some transformative things you're doing with Joint Base San Antonio. So it's not just city government, now it's the military.
That's right. So yeah, initially we started with cities, right? We brought a new practice design, centered on human design, right? We brought gamification and we brought social components to the platforms and the tools that residents use to interact with governments. And so, we identify that this type of issues were not only experienced in cities or by governments, but also in other ecosystems or in other sectors, such as the military. So we just recently won a contract with the Air Force to bring our tools to help facility managers in military bases, process all the infrastructure issues and service requests. And so we're doing that there. And we're also now working with large consultancy and engineering firms such as Irys, which is a global company. And through them, we'll help them reach out to the community, get feedback. Now we're seeing, because of the pandemic and the new world that we're all living in, now we're talking in this way digitally. So we're helping not only cities, now companies, reach out to communities, gather feedback, learn from them, and then use that feedback to bring everyone on board and create a sense of ownership that, just increases the positivity and the public perception as well of projects, because there's actually direct feedback from the community, and it's not just a top-down approach. So everyone gets involved, everyone participates, which is kind of what we put in practice, following the lead of RedSquared through the design thinking that they help facilitate. And so it's been a blast now having the opportunity to collaborate in this project in creating a unified one city application that would not only allow you to report 311 services, but have access to a large array of other services that the city offers.
Awesome. We're so proud of y'all. I know you're originally from Mexico, your team, but we think of you guys as hometown boys, and just watching the way that you guys have grown over the last few years, it's just amazing. So I'm going to turn it over to RedSquared. I'm going to ask them to not start off so humbly and force me to talk you up. But tell us a little bit. I'll start with you, Tara. Tell us a little bit about RedSquared and what attracted y'all to the CivTechSA Challenge.
So RedSquared is the brainchild of myself and Jenia. We spent many years at USAA helping USAA create exceptional experiences for its members. And in that process, we were exposed to techniques of design thinking and worked with amazing people to develop those experiences. And we decided back in 2014 that we could make an impact by taking these methods that we had learned and sharing them with other organizations. RedSquared is a customer experience consulting company. And basically what that means is we try to figure out ways to excite people when they're interacting with companies and with nonprofit organizations, with government, to engage them, to make sure that their needs are met, because it's surprising how many times organizations don't actually address the most imminent needs of their constituents. And so we're really there to create this connective tissue and to bring empathy and human understanding to the table, and to say to companies, to organizations, to anyone who's willing to listen, hey, are you really thinking in terms of the people who are using your services? Do you understand what they actually need? Do you understand what they want in the future? Because sometimes people tell you directly, but oftentimes it's a lot more complicated than you would expect. And that's really where our methods come in, our ethnographic and human-centered design methods, to really draw out what it is that customers want and need. And in the past 6 years, we've worked with over 30 different groups, a lot of financial service organizations. So we've worked with banks, we've worked with churches, we've worked with nonprofit organizations, we've worked with municipal entities. And the great thing about working with such a wide variety of organizations is that we can share those experiences and bounce them off of one another and learn from each different context. So I came to this as an anthropologist by training. My PhD is from the University of Chicago. And interestingly enough, I did my field research in Mexico City. So I have a lot of love for Mexico. And I was a professor at the University of Chicago for 5 years before we moved here to San Antonio. And I had the great fortune then of moving to the corporate sector. So my background is a lot of academic as well as corporate research. And I'll turn it over to Jenia.
Okay.
Jenia,
Yes, Kate. So I'll just expand a little bit and add kind of the angle of emission, why we created the company. But I wanted to demystify the name a little bit, because people wonder what it's all about. And really it's, so this is the Red Square in Moscow, which happens to be my hometown. So there you have it, a little bit of play on words, and that's a little bit of art and science, which we employ and use in our practice every day. As Tara mentioned, that we've been operating continuously for 6 years now. And we started the company with a mission, which is number one, to inspire businesses to be more human through customer understanding and empathy. That's where the art of anthropology comes in. And another angle for us was to advance women's journey in the business, and especially in the consulting world. So it's a women-owned business. We think women rock, and we just want to trailblaze as much as we can. So a few things that make us unique. We joke that in the age of digital revolution, we're still betting on the human factor. So we believe in people. In our approach, we combine the scientific rigor, business acumen, and creativity. But really, the glue, kind of what it makes it come together, is still the human factor. So we study experiences, because not everything in life can be reduced to numbers. And life is, complex. Not all the decisions are rational. Not everything can be arranged neatly in a spreadsheet. So we really try to help discover the real people behind the numbers and the data, whether big or small, and what really matters to them. And part of that approach, I think, really attracted us to the challenge, because the challenge is I think Leslie said it best. It was a little bit anxiety inducing. It's like, oh, make things easy for the city. Like which part of the city, which department, oh, like everything, like which residents, all of them. I'm like, okay, well, let's just like roll our sleeves and do it. But we managed to, create a methodology in this project. For us, everything starts with understanding. So every experience starts with an understanding of what does it mean for those who will be experiencing the experience intended. So we sort through the data, we figure out what really is going on with the residents and what they think, what they want, what they do, what they don't do. And then we, packaged it in customer experience framework principles for the city and put the beginning of the bold and the creative app with the help of Irys team. So that's all in the works now.
That's amazing. You said so many things I want to talk about, but I want to hear from David, so we'll have to get to those later. The male on the team of this women-owned, championing women in business. I love it. So how did you get involved in, tell us a little bit about your perspective on
Well,
this.
it's really interesting because actually, full disclosure, my daughter and Tara's son are best friends. And so, it's interesting how such a small world, San Antonio can kind of feel like. And, my wife and I we were trained in anthropology, and of course, Tara and her husband are anthropologists. And so we got to talking and became fast friends, bonded, of course, over Mexico City and all things, taco related. So, but really my background has been in healthcare management and deploying enterprise level softwares in different healthcare organizations. And I've frequently found myself sort of being the translator between what the customer or the, excuse me, the nurses or therapists, what they need, and kind of translating that into, words, I guess, and systems and approaches for development teams. And so those sort of that role has been unique to me. And, you could call it product management. You could just call it, being the anthropologist in the room. And so I've used an ethnographic approach in various healthcare organizations as well, apart from RedSquared. And I feel like, when we first heard about this, this project, this challenge, I went ahead and sort of volunteered my services, sort of as maybe the tech guy in the room, in that translational role. And so it seems to have worked really well with the team dynamic, and also, being that translator with all of our research, and then the go-between for Team Irys. And so we developed, I think, a wonderful prototype and a wonderful model that we can build off of for the city of San Antonio and the residents.
Awesome. Okay, let's go there. Let's talk. I want to get to the prototype. That's what everyone's here for. But let's talk just a little bit more about the process, because Jenia and Tara started to talk about it. It's messy. People aren't rational. We're trying to boil the ocean and do everything at once. I have been at the city 8 years, and I have been in government most of my career at the federal and state level in a lot of different cities. And I can tell you that's common across the board. I'm sure Beto can tell you that now that he's working with so many other entities as well. It's not just the city of San Antonio who can benefit from an outsider coming in and starting at square one, RedSquared one. So talk to us a little about the process. How did you start working with the department? Like, where did you start? And there's this framework called CARE. I want to know a little bit about that as well. And maybe we'll go in reverse order, actually. We'll start with you, David, and then Jenia and Tara can add on if they want to.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. The CARE model really was as a result of extensive ethnographic style research and focus groups not only with some residents of San Antonio from all the different districts. You know, we really tried to have equity as top of mind and kind of woven throughout the fabric of the app. So we wanted real diverse opinions, but we also took stakeholders from the city. And you know, we talked to city employees from, you know, and from different departments, because guess what, city employees are residents too, so they have sort of this unique perspective as well. And we looked at a lot of the research findings, which I'll allow, of course, Tara, she's our research guru, to talk more about, but we kind of distilled it into a service model and a framework that not only could you build an app with that model, but you could design all sorts of services around that model. And it's an organizational model in a sense, you know, that service model on how do we take things from a departmental level and instead look at it from a needs level, from a resident need perspective, and then fit it that way. Because residents don't say, well, I think I'm going to go to the city, to the Department of Finance for this need. They don't know, you know, the 42 different departments, and nor should they be required to be experts in city government. And so this care model is really something that's a little more intuitive, and it's a natural fit for the residents. I'm going to go ahead and pass it along to my colleagues.
I just saw Jenia put in the chat that she can actually share the care model. Leslie, do you know, share her screen? It might help people to actually see it. Yeah. Complying, accessing, reporting, engaging. Do you want to talk us through just a little bit of it? I want to also have time for Beto to talk about where Irys fit in, but let's understand
absolutely.
this a little better.
Can you guys see it? Every time I do something on Zoom, even if I did it 10,000 times, it never fails that something could be different. So just wanted to check. So real quick, so here's the beauty of the, you know, you think that here's the research, here's the findings. Well, you know, you've probably seen the research reports. They could be hundreds of pages long. And then it's like, well, here's the nice, you know, War and Peace. Yeah, the Russian that I am, I have to use War and Peace. It's a big book. Here's the War and Peace of the research, and you can read it and figure it all out. And that's where oftentimes, unfortunately, research findings, if they're not operationalized, they just kind of die slow death on a shelf. So what way, because like nobody has time to figure out what to do with it and how to reduce this volume into something actionable. And but we did this, so please meet care. And the model really walks you through a very simple view from the resident perspective. You know, as residents, all of our interactions with the city are roughly, you know, in the majority of cases can fall into 4 categories, where they're complying with regulations. Look, we didn't want it, we don't want a permit, we don't want to pay fee or fine, but this is what needs to get done. So the compliance factor. Then residents accessing services. So the city and the partnering organizations provide us with water, electricity, trash recycling, voting, lots of other things. I understand that city doesn't provide all of that, but we'll touch upon it. Residents don't really care. It's just one big government, and that's what they think that government provides. So they expect to access it. And without any interruptions and swiftly. And when issues happen with accessing those services, residents expect to report it. Like there's a pothole, there's an animal, there's a code violation, etc. And probably the most interesting and surprising, I should say, finding for us is that residents don't just want to take, they want to give. So that's where engaging comes in. They want to engage with the community, with the parks, libraries, special events, volunteering. So that's the angle that really, I think we brought a new angle into this challenge and made it not just transactional, but also relationship focused. And Tara, please add as much as needed.
Sure. Thank you, Jenia. The whole idea behind the CARE framework is to take the departmental organization of the city, which I should point out makes a lot of sense. And I have tremendous respect for city employees who have to deliver all of these services every day. And so the city has its own internal organization for a reason. However, what's interesting when we started doing the research and we listened to residents talk about the various ways in which they interact with the city, we heard that residents don't think about it in terms of, oh, I'm going to go to the Department of Parks right now, or I need to talk to the I need to talk to the library now. They thought about it in terms of the specific type of activity they were engaging in. And what's so exciting about grouping this in terms of the way that residents think about their interactions is that we've completely eliminated some of those internal silos that confuse residents. So all I need to know as a resident is, hey, I want to set up my water. I can go right into the app and do that. I don't need to know what part of the city to contact. If I want to report an issue, I don't need to know if I need to go to 311 or elsewhere. So what we're doing is trying to facilitate the most seamless interaction between residents and the city and eliminate any of the internal organization that sometimes gets in the way. Yep. I'll speak a little bit to the research because Kate, you're exactly right. When we do all of this research, we have lots and lots of findings. And I think the biggest challenge with working with the city and in this kind of space is that, look, we have almost, depending on the numbers, 1.5 million residents. How do we make sure that we are meeting the needs of all of those different residents? And it can be overwhelming. It can be anxiety provoking because you want to make sure that you're speaking to all those populations. And the goal of an ethnographic research approach is to really embed ourselves in the community and embed ourselves with residents from all different parts of the city, not just the north side, not just the south side, but to make sure that we are exposed to that diversity of experience and start pulling the significant findings. And so basically our process was to interview city stakeholders, community stakeholders, and city employees to understand their perspective on what needs to be done. They are ethnographers in their own right because they're the ones who interact with the city every day. So we gathered that information that they already have, and then we go talk to the residents and we pool all of that data and information together. And that's how we start to see some patterns emerge. And I'm saying it as if it just happens in an epiphany, that all of a sudden it becomes clear. It's not always so clear, but through all of our Post-it notes and our conversations, we find those big trends. And there were just two interesting findings that I'd like to highlight that Jenia alluded to. One was this idea that for many residents, the boundaries between what the city provides and what the county provides, and sometimes even what the state provides, is not clear. We had numerous residents talking to us about their experiences with the Department of Motor Vehicles, talking about their experience getting their car registration, and they were interpreting that as a city service. And what's so unique about an ethnographic approach is you could say, we could have taken one line and said, well, we're only interested in city services, so we're just going to forget about all of that. But what an ethnographic approach does is say, hey, if this is how people are thinking about it, maybe we need to adjust our thinking to accommodate them rather than try to educate them on what the subtle boundaries are. So that was a very exciting finding, and you'll see that reflected in the prototype. And then the other one that Jenia alluded to is this thirst for engagement. So the challenge is written, wanted to facilitate access to city services. And when we first started down this path, that's where our focus was. And when we started talking with residents, we heard over and over again this whisper of, what makes me a San Antonian isn't that I pay city taxes, or that that I have the mayor as the same people in other parts of the city. It's that I participate in the community, that I go to these events. That's where our community really comes alive. And so we realized that in addition to those transactions, we need to include things in this app that really nurture the community and nurture that feeling, because that's the civic engagement that's going to make life better for all of us.
That's awesome. So a lot of surveying happening in the departments, the residents. You're getting us out of our silos, because it's not just city, county, state, SASW, CPS, our utilities. It's also within the city, 15,000 employees, 40 different departments. and oh, I just deliver this service. So you're getting us out of that space, and you're really asking the resident, what do you need? That's amazing. I love it. And we're all ethnographers, so I feel good about that. But I want to switch gears, and then we got to see that prototype because I'm dying to see it. Beto, tell us a little bit about where you guys came into this process and what role you played in developing this app, this One City app.
Definitely. And just, picking up where Tara left, yeah, that's a big one, right? And that's something that we continuously heard or have been, hearing from residents. And it's the fact that right now, for example, the app that we created, it only allows you to create reports within the city. And so you have these islands, right, that are like, Alamo Heights, or, you have these cities within the larger city that you even get geofenced, so you cannot report, right? So, we get calls, hey, I'm trying to create a report, but the app won't work. It's like, what's happening? It's just won't let me pass the map. Where do you live? Alamo Heights. There you go. So those silos, with this app, with the research that RedSquared did, help to surface that problem and bring it, very clearly to the city leadership. And this is kind of what we are including in the app as a technical solution. So the way we came into this project is, taking with the learning that we've accumulated from working with the city of San Antonio and working with other cities, in Mexico and in the United States mostly, we've learned a lot from our mistakes and from the feedback from the residents. And so the way that we approach this, through obviously the design thinking workshops that we did, and kind of taking from the research that we've done, the data that we have, we came up with, for example, 4 things that were really, really important for residents and for this product to give a very holistic, integrated experience to access all city departments and services. And the first one was a personal experience, right? Whether you're a resident in San Antonio and someone who just moved into San Antonio, a new resident, or a visitor, right? So you will just use the same application, but the app will provide the experience of your type of user that you are. What do you need? Because if you're a visitor, you don't need to see anything about water services or CPS, electricity, energy, et cetera, right? So that was something that we focused a lot in creating those 3 user cases. Another thing was the AI-powered application with the chatbot service that will provide an inclusive experience and a more autonomous response from the application, and also learning from your most frequent uses, and it will learn and show you what is the most important to you. Like, for example, if you are just interested in tacos, it will always feature the taco finder thing on top that David brought into the experience there as a taco connoisseur in San Antonio. Also, location-based recommendations, right? If you just moved in, you want to know what is it that is around you and which school district is important to you and what are the parks that are near to you, and just want to explore in your proximity. So the application based on your location will tell you what's closer to you based on what you want to find. And finally, it's modular and scalable. You mentioned right now, Kate, the dozens and departments in the city and the hundreds and thousands of people who work in the city. So there's always the city keeps growing, keeps transforming, and so this app will provide that flexibility, that dynamic component, because you could add departments into the experience without having to change a lot in the application. You could take out some of the things that are no longer relevant. And so it provides that scalability and responsive design that you can continue to add things. And so those are the things that, combined with the research that RedSquared did, with our experience in product design and, working with this in this type of environment, we were able to put together. And that's what, you'll be seeing right now when David takes the stage and presents the demo.
Yeah, David, I want to see this taco app that you designed. I don't really care about the city services. I just want to know where I'm going to get lunch today. No, really, that was genius. So David, it's the stage is yours. Please show us.
Sure.
I don't know if there's a drum roll, Leslie, you can play or something.
All right. Can you guys see the screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this is on a browser. Essentially when the user is gonna, enable this app, it's gonna look like this. Let me kind of hide this so you can have a better view. But they'll have like a short tutorial, so, most of us are used to that type of navigation and that feature. So just a short tutorial explaining, the dashboard that Beto talked about, that you can customize the most frequently accessed resources or services that you're used to doing, and kind of customization there. There's a dynamic search bar using artificial intelligence, machine learning, that's going to be really robust, because what we found in our research was, people have a hard time navigating, and it was so funny to hear the folks to, just saying, well, you know what, I just Google it and then it just takes me there, versus navigating the website or what have you. So we found that pain point again through ethnographic sort of technique, and we said, let's just give them a search bar that's super robust, to where you can ask something and it'll give you meaningful feedback. A home menu, of course, service menu. And then one really cool thing that came out of the design sprints was Sammy Antonio. And that is an AI powered chatbot that the user can interact with. And it is, I have to commend Team Irys for just kind of the branding and the design, because you know what, that's uniquely San Antonio. The guy right there, the icon, sort of this quirky cowboy person that's helpful. And it's really cool because as a user, I'm going to get to interact, and I can say, hey, where can I go kayaking? I want to go kayaking or something. And I can just go ahead and start asking, and it's going to start making the system a bit more interactive. It's going to learn, the app is going to learn, user trends and things like that. So it's going to be more and more helpful over time. So I'm just going to take you through, one flow of this particular prototype. But what we found in our research as well was, there's really three personas. Obviously, current residents are going to be one type of user. Folks who are moving to the city and trying to, just navigate and find their way around. That's a big pain point, setting up utilities, et cetera. And then folks who are visiting San Antonio, we want to make this experience so meaningful for them and such a pleasurable experience that they're able to navigate the city of San Antonio in a smart way, and really make it just a meaningful, memorable visit to San Antonio. So this is really one of the areas here where, again, we have a taco finder. I don't know if you can see that there, but we've got the ability to create the dashboard and things like that. And so you can favorite with those little hearts the different tiles for the services that you use. And you'll see here on the next screen just a few more types of needs that we discovered, just folks trying to find a school, for their kids, if they're moving to San Antonio or they're moving within the city, they're a current resident, recycling, garbage, car and driver, so we're thinking all things automotive, in the sense that, whether or not the city provides, driver's license renewal, that's not in the mindset of a resident or a person who's moving to San Antonio. They just think, again, government is a monolith, and I just need to do a particular task like renew my driver's license or, get plates that are Texas plates. So we lump that in, again, all contextual based types of organization. And so you'll see here just these different screens, again, based on research, based on what the users tell us and what the residents said that they'd like to see. We have lots of different offerings here. And so One of the other areas where we're trying to eliminate and erase boundaries between city, county, state, and sort of some of the private sector areas are, obviously being able to set up a utility. So if I'm just trying to set up city public service or trash or, my gas service, then those are other areas that we're going to integrate within the app to provide a lot of value for folks and centralize this process, because typically it's pretty painful, so you'll see here the ability to pay and a particular bill, right? We incorporated OCR, or optical character recognition, so that you can just simply scan your credit card if you feel comfortable paying online through an app. It's going to be super secure, meeting the latest security requirements. And so we found one of the areas, where people get frustrated. We're trying to provide a frictionless experience, but one of those areas is, typing the 16-digit credit card. So just taking the pain points and just alleviating them through technology. Again, the translator role that I've served kind of helps to inform, Team Irys based on research and say, what, let's eliminate a pain point. This is a known technology that's easy to implement. Let's do it here. And so you'll see these different areas. And the initial challenge really from the city was much more transactional in nature. And I know Tara alluded to that, more like paying your bills and navigating the departments. But, so this does address that initial challenge, but we took it to be so much more than that. I mean, we're really expanding the different offerings that we have for the residents of San Antonio. So for example, again, Texas driver's license, the plates, being able to use the user's camera just to be able to take a picture of their license. So this would be really neat, because I think a lot of folks would be a lot more happy with Department of Motor Vehicles experience if it's much more seamless and integrated and centralized. And so I think it's a win-win for city, state, local government when you can centralize and just kind of make compliance a little easier. And I wanted to go to this geolocation feature because a lot of what users want and what residents want and visitors want is the ability to just say, hey, I'm here. Let me know what's around me. I'm trying to add a particular task. So we use geolocation. That's an available technology that's easy to deploy. We also use sort of this predictive text. So if anybody's been on Zillow and you're typing in an address and it comes up with several suggestions, that is a technology that's easy to employ. And we use that here again to take a pain point out for the user. And so, for example, exploring your neighborhood, back to Tara's point, residents want to engage. San Antonians like to be connected. We love our fiesta. We love our events. And guess what? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to meet the people where they're at and say, if you want it, we're going to give it to you. And this is the type of functionality that we want. So for example, finding a nearby library, among other things, other sort of public utility and support systems here, but you'll be able to see the libraries nearby. And this is just to illustrate that you'll have the ability to see the library nearby and then select that from there. So we have a lot more flow built out and things like that. So, we can illustrate that as well. One thing that really spoke to us when we were conducting ethnographic research with entities other than city departments. And again, this speaks to equity. Equity is top of mind. It is woven throughout the fabric of this app. We spoke with Haven for Hope, SAM Shelter, all these other social assistance type programs, of food bank. We conducted research there. And so we really found the need, and especially during this particular pandemic, we realized that people are experiencing much more hardship. We wanted to be able to comprehensively centralize assistance here so they can find assistance. If I'm experiencing food insecurity, which is a real thing right now, I'm able to find that. I'm able to find affordable housing or some sort of assistance if I'm experiencing homelessness. So we tried to go ahead and centralize those types of assistance as well. So finding food, here are nearby food resources if I'm food insecure. And again, it's really relevant. This is something that could be, again, it speaks
David,
to
can
us
I ask
today.
you a quick question?
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Mhm.
First of all, I have a question for you. This is fascinating. This is so fascinating.
Mhm.
I was just going to ask, I'm seeing in the chat, I think Jenia is telling me that there's quite a few people who are actually asking questions, and
Oh, that's
afraid
awesome.
we might run low on time. So were you planning to go through all 66 or?
We are not going to go through all 66.
Okay.
So I just wanted to
That's all.
demonstrate a couple of flows, and I appreciate that reminder because, yeah, I love the question. So yeah, let's go ahead and
I can
switch
tell you're
gears.
passionate about it.
Yeah.
I am blown away. This is so transformative, guys. It's not just about an ad. This is about completely changing the way that people interact. I didn't say transact. I said interact with government.
Love it.
And it's about, big, little government, not big government, not city of San Antonio, but I'm someone who needs things.
Yeah.
Help me get them quickly.
Yep.
And it benefits the city from a city staffer's perspective. If we can, expedite this process, if we can make it less painless, it makes our jobs more enjoyable. So thank you so much for helping us get out of our own heads. I think that's the beauty of CivTech, right? Of the CivTechSA program, is that you guys come from a totally different perspective as entrepreneurs and as people who worked at UTSA and as people who came from Chicago and Mexico and Russia. So you bring all that to bear. So I do want actually to ask some of these questions. For some reason, I'm not seeing the questions. Do you see them, Jenia?
Yes, they're in the Q&A. They're typed up. So I think
You want to give a stab at them?
yeah, I think Damien, Coach Dame has question we can probably tackle pretty quick. And Tara, I would look up to you to maybe give the research qualified answer. What are the methods you use for polling and interviewing residents?
So the first we took at Coach Dame is that we looked at what resources the city already has. So there is an annual community needs survey that Government and Public Affairs put us in touch with. And so we wanted to make sure that any research we were doing was building on prior knowledge. So we really scoured that to try to understand what is it that we already know. And then it's interesting that you should raise this because the pandemic did present some challenges for us. Normally, we would have preferred to have done a lot of in-person observation at various different sites where residents interact with the city. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19, that was not an option for us. So we had to get creative and find other ways to get that information. So we interviewed panels of employees who staff those various one-stop shops in the city. There are places you can go to do to perform multiple tasks at once. And so we kind of picked the brains of those employees to have them provide us some information and insights about residents. And then for the actual interviews with residents, we started out with small focus groups with residents from all over the city so that we could get a sense of what is the general range of attitudes and perceptions that exist. And then in the follow-up research that we do, we're going to do a survey where we figure out the incidence of those perceptions and attitudes.
And then I answered some for the expediency's sake. So Damien and Shabnam, we can connect. I can expand after the meeting. But one question again from Damien is a very good one. So as creators, storytellers, and community advocates, we focus on building culture from the ground up for different brands. So I guess the question is, how do you feel your organizations focus on continuously building trust with the community? And I'll just tee it up and let Beto and David and Tara chime in. But it's like when you think about trust, you don't demand it. We know all that, you earn it. So I think there is an opportunity with the sort of employing listening skills and acting upon the feedback and interacting with the residents to start building that trust gradually. And that's kind of the evolution of the service model that, hey, from kind of compliance based and regulation based, it's really going to be more trust based. When we deliver what we say we will deliver, then we will act on the feedback. And this app and just the framework in itself, kind of the first steps to pave the journey. I don't know if David, Beto, Tara, if you want to provide some additional comments, absolutely go for it.
Definitely. Yeah, I can chime in. So yeah, how do we, how do we make sure that we continually build trust within the community? So it's very important to stay close to, have a channel open for feedback, and of course, have the community's input as part of the design and the experience you create. So for example, definitely for us has been very valuable to close the engagement loop, right? Usually what happened, with a lot of government services is like you create a service request or, start a process, and then you might hear back from it, you may not hear back from it, but the ability to close that engagement loop and notify the resident in each step of the process has been transformative, right? Because it's transparent and it also creates accountability. And so that in itself, it's a huge, component of staying close and having the trust in the community. So for example, right now, in one of in the 311 app, you can see in which step of the process your report is. And that way, and you also have some context information about what that process means and who takes care of that process. So that's really important. And in the case of the One City app, I mean, just the fact that, the RedSquared team invited people from all walks of, life in the city, also, city leaders and, public officials to be part of the conversation. And then they as an entrepreneurs, Irys as also entrepreneurs and engineering, software development, everyone participated. So you had the feedback and you had the input from everyone who, experienced this city from multiple perspectives. And so that's like crowdsourcing a solution in itself, right? Everyone's participating. So that, I think, it also adds a lot of value in gaining trust in the community, because it's not something that is being put from the bottom up. It's actually building from top down approach, but from the bottom up approach. And that's kind of the approach that we did. And so I think that's important to keeping the trust in the community.
So it looks like we only have 2 minutes left and we haven't heard from Tara. So I'm gonna close this out, but I want to know, Tara, a couple of things. What was this experience like? So we have entrepreneurs tuning in. What kind of lessons do you have for entrepreneurs like this? I know that when we first launched the CivTechSA program, we saw it as an opportunity to build startups, but more importantly, because there is an opportunity to get a contract out of this from the city, but more importantly, to build relationships, to start understanding each other better, so that we build better products and we as a client are better ready to accept what you're trying to teach us. So I'd like to just end on a note of, what are some lessons that you took away from this experience that our entrepreneurs who are listening might be able to think about doing CivTechSA, or just doing whatever it is that you think might help them be more civically engaged and more entrepreneurial?
I'm so glad you asked, Kate, because when we first saw this challenge, I panicked a little bit and I said, Jenia, we're not software developers. I mean, I don't code. I have many talents, but that's not one of them. But I think where we really benefited was understanding what our skill set is. And as I would urge entrepreneurs to really focus on not just what is your role, but what are the skills that you have, and think about how could those skills transform the city of San Antonio. It could be maybe you have technical skills, maybe you have storytelling skills, maybe you have research skills. And so to be really crisp on what is that unique type of expertise and knowledge that you bring to the table. And then when you look at those CivTech challenges, to think broadly and to think creatively, because that was the most exciting part of this challenge for me. And I think I speak on behalf of Jenia and David, is to be given the opportunity, because we knew that our method could really bring this challenge to life, but we didn't necessarily have the technology background to do it. And so we were so fortunate to have worked with Team Irys in the past, and to know that they have our backs when it comes to the tech side of things. So I would really strongly encourage, instead of looking at the challenges and saying, oh no, we can't do that, imagine what you could do. Stop thinking about what you can't, imagine what you can. And then think big. I mean, we have an app now that is going to possibly integrate driver's licenses. That's nothing that any of us thought about in the beginning. And so I think the other thing that I would urge any potential entrepreneurs is to let the users guide you. Don't be so set in your ways and think, oh, I know the answer from the get-go. If you knew the answer from the get-go, there was no point in the 16 weeks. So you really have to you have to immerse yourself in that process and let it carry you along, and listen and be open to the information that you'll learn over the course of the 16 weeks.
I love that answer so much. I think I'm gonna close it out with one thought. And feel free to jump in, Leslie. The CivTechSA program was established to grow the startup ecosystem while also helping the city provide better services. And oh my gosh, what better of a poster child than you guys? So you built this transformative app. You brought together people from all these different backgrounds to inform it. You all have these very varied backgrounds, an anthropologist, someone from healthcare, Jenia's from Russia. I mean, Beto is your software person. And then you think about the startup ecosystem. Wow, it's so great that people from all those backgrounds are in our ecosystem here, and that startups are working together. I mean, Irys and RedSquared, who knew, right? That would be such a perfect pairing. So it's so great at San Antonio Startup Week to know that we're in a good place, that what you're doing is giving back. I'm just honestly very happy right now, thinking that with everything that's going on in the world these days, there are a lot of hard things that are going on. There's a lot of really amazing things happening right here, just on the screen in the city. So it's a positive moment for me. I don't know, Leslie, do you have any other thoughts you want to close this out with?
No, I mean, I think you said a lot very perfectly there, Kate. I think that for CivTech, having you guys as part of our residency program this year was just such a treat. It was such a different experience, and I learned so much throughout that 16 weeks watching you guys work through the process and getting to see all the bits and pieces. And so I know the work that went behind it, and just echoing a lot of what Kate was saying about how this is just really transforming, the way that we even think about the city as residents, and how the way the city can think about residents and what that relationship is. And I think that that's the true innovation that came out of your time at the residency, is just a new way of thinking about that relationship, regardless of how the tech ends up going, as we move forward. So I really, I'm just so amazed by everything you've done, and really proud that you guys have been part of the CivTech program. So thank you everyone for listening today and tuning in, and everyone who's going to watch it later on. Thank you to San Antonio Startup Week for having us and letting us host this lovely panel. Thank you, RedSquared. Thank you, Beto from Irys. Thank you, Kate. This was awesome.
Thank you.